Seriously, you are not gonna believe this, or maybe you've already heard it, but we gotta break it down. The rumor, the whisper, the absolutely bonkers possibility is that Jack Black is potentially, theoretically, maybe, possibly, somehow connected to voicing Kaufmo in the Amazing Digital Circus. Okay, pump the brakes just a tiny bit. Before anyone goes completely off the rails, like Kaufmo himself, am I right? Too soon? The origin of this mind-blowing idea comes from none other than the amazing Gooseworks herself, the twisted genius behind this nightmare we all love. She apparently joked that Jack Black voiced Kaufmo for, wait for it, 0 lines. 0 lines! As anyone who's seen the pilot knows, Kaufmo, in his abstracted, glitching, multi-eyed alpaca horse monster form, doesn't exactly have heart-to-heart conversations. He doesn't deliver monologues. He doesn't sing epic power ballads, sadly for a potential Jack Black role. He basically just glitches, chases, and is terrifyingly silent in his abstract state. But the joke, the possibilities the joke ignites, even if it was just a throwaway comment, the sheer mental image of the legendary Jack Black lending his iconic voice, his boundless energy, his pure chaotic essence to a character like Kaufmo, we have to unpack this. We have to theorize, because the implications, even for a character who abstracted off-screen before the main events, are just chef's kiss levels of internet theory. Goodness. Let's talk about Kaufmo for a second based on what we know. He was a resident of the Digital Circus, a clown. Not just any clown, but apparently everyone's favorite jokester according to Glitch Productions. Kinger described him as unstable lately, obsessed with the exit, and we got that glimpse of his pre-abstracted self through descriptions. A noseless clown with white skin, black button eyes, a plain yellow suit with blue collar and red buttons, party hat, white gloves, the classic, maybe slightly unsettling clown look. We're told he liked to tell jokes, but he got upset when they didn't land. This is so crucial. Imagine that personality. A clown whose job is to make people laugh, who is perhaps perpetually trying too hard, maybe even with a forced cheerfulness. The toxic positivity kind of clown that Gooseworks and others have mentioned was an original idea for him. Someone who outwardly embodies joy and silliness, but internally is perhaps fragile, needing that validation from laughter, and clearly spiraling into a deep existential crisis about being trapped. Now, picture Jack Black embodying that. Seriously, close your eyes. Imagine Jack Black delivering those slightly annoying, maybe desperate jokes. Imagine him trying to get a laugh, and when it doesn't happen, you hear that subtle shift in his voice, that hint of disappointment or frustration that he can convey so perfectly even in his comedic roles. Jack Black is a master of high-energy performance, but he can also convey vulnerability, awkwardness, and a touch of pathos under the surface. Think of Po from Kung Fu Panda, hilarious and energetic, but with insecurity and a longing to belong. Think of Bowser in the Mario movie, pure chaotic energy, but with that surprisingly earnest and hilarious song about Peach. And speaking of Jack Black taking on iconic characters, we can't ignore his role as Steve in the Minecraft movie. This casting choice proves Hollywood recognizes Jack Black's unique ability to bring beloved, somewhat quirky characters to life. Steve, the silent protagonist of Minecraft, got a voice through Jack Black, which makes the Kaufmo 0 lines joke even more ironically perfect. Here's an actor who's literally going from potentially voicing a character with 0 lines to bringing voice to gaming's most famously silent character. The Minecraft casting also shows Jack Black's continued dominance in adapting digital worlds and game characters for mainstream audiences. His ability to inject personality into characters that were originally blank slates or minimal in dialogue is exactly what would make a theoretical Kaufmo performance so compelling. Just like Steve represents the everyman builder and explorer, Kaufmo could have been the everyman entertainer trying to cope with digital imprisonment through humor. Applying that range to a character like Kaufmo, who is supposed to be this upbeat, maybe slightly annoying, constantly joking clown, it fits almost too well. You can practically hear Jack Black's voice saying, "Hey, get a load of this one! Why did the recursive function cross the road? To call itself again. Get it? Recursive? No? Tough crowd." And then that subtle, "Oh, okay, moving on." Imagine the energy he'd bring to the attempt at being funny, the sheer effort put into the jokes. But then, the abstraction. This is where the joke about 0 lines becomes incredibly poignant and frankly, a little bit horrifying. Kaufmo didn't just leave. He didn't just get sad and quiet. He broke. He went completely insane thinking about the exit, the ultimate symbol of escape from this prison. His mind shattered, and his form distorted into something monstrous. That black, rapidly glitching body, the 4 stubby legs, the long neck, the body covered in eyes. It's a manifestation of breakdown, of losing yourself entirely. And in this form, he is silent. So, the joke, Jack Black, the man known for his booming voice, his expressive range, his literal singing, voicing a character who has 0 lines in the only state we've seen him in. What does that even mean? This is where the theories explode. If we take the joke and stretch it into a what if, what could it imply? Maybe Jack Black did record something, but it was cut? Given the original plan was for Kaufmo to be in the main cast, perhaps there were initial recordings of him talking before abstraction. And when the character was changed to abstract off-screen early on, those lines became 0 lines in the pilot itself, making the joke technically true true for the final product? This feels like the most plausible scenario if there was any truth beyond a pure joke. But what if the joke is meant to highlight the loss? Jack Black's voice is so distinctive, so full of personality and life. Casting him, even theoretically, for a character who becomes a silent, abstract horror emphasizes the sheer tragedy of Kaufmo's fate. It's the equivalent of losing your voice, losing your identity. The potential for that vibrant, comedic voice being silenced forever by the circus's existential dread makes the abstraction even more impactful. You imagine the sound that could have been there, now replaced by glitchy silence and monstrous roars, which, okay, could Jack Black do some abstract creature noises? Absolutely. But the joke specifically says 0 lines. And honestly, maybe it's just funny because it's absurd. The thought of one of the most recognizable and energetic voices in Hollywood being attached to a character who appears for a few minutes as a silent monster and then gets shoved in a basement, it's peak internet humor. It's the kind of casting non sequitur that just makes you laugh. But even in the absurdity, there's fitting irony, given the surreal and often darkly comedic nature of TADC itself. Let's dive deeper into that clown arc concept. Clowns are traditionally figures of fun, meant to evoke laughter, but there's always been a slightly unsettling quality to them for some people. The painted smiles, the hidden identity, the potential for sadness behind the performance. TADC takes this trope and twists it into something truly horrifying. Kaufmo, the jokester, the one trying to bring levity, is the first character we know of to completely break and abstract. If you overlay the potential, even if theoretical casting of Jack Black onto this, it amplifies the tragedy. Jack Black embodies a kind of infectious, almost childlike enthusiasm in many roles. To think of that energy, that spirit, being trapped in a digital world, forced to perform joy until it cracks and turns into a silent, glitching nightmare. It's powerful. It makes the abstraction of Kaufmo not just a plot point to show the dangers of the circus, but a truly heartbreaking transformation of a character who, perhaps, was just trying his best to cope by making others, and himself, laugh. Imagine a flashback episode, a Kaufmo origin story, where we do get to see him before he abstracted, telling those jokes, interacting with the others, and imagine hearing Jack Black's voice coming out of that classic clown design. It would immediately give Kaufmo a level of personality and history that his brief appearance as a monster couldn't achieve alone. We'd understand why he was everyone's favorite jokester even if his jokes were corny or his cheerfulness was forced. And then, seeing that character with that potential voice descend into the silent, glitching horror we saw in the pilot, the impact would be immense. The fact that Gooseworks even joked about it hints that the thought might have crossed her mind, or perhaps it was just a funny idea tossed around in the early stages. Maybe the energy Jack Black brings is the kind of energy they initially envisioned for Kaufmo before the character's role in the story shifted. We see the impact Kaufmo's abstraction had on the others, particularly Ragatha holding a funeral for him and Jax, showing a rare moment of sadness before storming off. He wasn't just some random NPC, he was a part of their twisted little community. The loss of Kaufmo was significant, and if you add the Jack Black connection, however theoretical, that loss feels even more significant. Think about future episodes. Will we ever revisit the cellar? Will the abstracted characters play a role? If Kaufmo were to somehow escape or be featured again, what would that look like? Would he remain silent? Would he make new, horrifying noises? And how would the idea of Jack Black having theoretically voiced him inform our perception of the glitching monster on screen? Whether it was a pure joke, a fleeting thought, or something more, unlikely, but let us dream, the idea of Jack Black as Kaufmo is too compelling to ignore. It's absurd, it's tragic, and it just fits the chaotic energy of the Amazing Digital Circus. Imagine the chaos if it's real. Seriously, just imagine it.